All right, hello, and welcome to episode 17 of Watch Me Build $1 Million Business. It has been probably a couple months since the last time I got on here, and in that time, I actually went on a bit of a nomad excursion to Mexico, Costa Rica, and Guatemala. And while I was there, I did a lot of work on the offer, so a lot of behind the scenes happened while I was gone, and there was a lot of questions I was asking myself about what I actually wanted to do and where I wanted to take this thing. And so now I feel like we're kind of in a spot where, okay, we're going to be planting a flag, drawing some lines in the sand, and we can now come back and kind of wrap this video. Otherwise, you would have watched me spend maybe 20 videos chasing my tail a little bit and kind of stress testing, my thoughts and ideas. Additionally, while I was in Mexico, I met a fantastic hotshot young man who is potentially going to be joining us as an intern. So he's also on this call. You may hear him. His name's Sebastian. Go ahead and say hi.
Hi, I'm Sebastian. Yes, I'm just shadowing Chris and his capacity at Jolly Sherpa, learning a lot. So just like you guys, I'll be listening and may cut in for a question or two. So please enjoy.
Yep. So as we go through, this is kind of two birds with one stone, behind the scenes for you, and for him, it's an opportunity to learn a little bit about what we do, how we do it, and get kind of up to speed on where we're going. Since this is not live, which we may eventually do live streams, as he jumps in with questions, I'll stop and answer them. So, because I think that it would be valuable for those that are also watching. All right, so where are we at? Let's jump really quickly into the summit guide, just as a quick recap, and then we'll go deep into the offer. So new summit guide, we're now in Q2, so for sure behind where I wanted to be, but I'm not mad about it. I feel like I really got the clarity I needed to kind of keep things moving. So the goal by the end of June is to achieve $83,330 per month in monthly recurring revenue. We're still at 25. Why are we there? Just being honest, we failed to replace previous income. So the big three objectives for this quarter. Number one is launching outbound. That is basically our outreach campaigns for the new offer, for this particular offer that I've been working on for the past couple months. So in the process of finalizing what that actually is, completing the fulfillment side playbook, which is for the hub, which is essentially going to be our onboarding. And then we're in the process of launching our cold email, which is how we will reach out to small business owners, potentially VCs and private equity, for our first round of testing in terms of bringing people into the fold for this offer. And then once that's rolling, I'll be taking everything, so I'm going to walk you guys through everything I've done on this offer document. Once that's once we have the offer done, then I can take all that. It'll have all the requirements that I need for me to go and build out my actual funnel. So my inbound funnel, that's going to be my acquisition path. So if you've been following in the previous videos, that looks like the assessment will get done, the landing pages will get done, the ads will get done, videos will get done, the emails that will follow up will get done. So that'll be where we really get in and into the nitty gritty, and we're building. And then I'm going to work on some relationship building on my own. And then we're in the process of, I've really failed to create case studies in the past. So that's something that we're in the process of doing now. And we've gotten some really good feedback and testimonies from our current clients that we're winning pretty big for. So we're working on turning that into a source of social proof. And then at the same time, as soon as I go and launch the offer, there's some fulfillment that we are going to need to fill the gaps in really quickly. So I'm kind of anticipating, all these red pieces and some of these yellow pieces. We're going to need to tighten up super fast. I prefer a bias towards action and a bias towards imperfect action. So I don't want to wait for these to be perfect in order to go. I'd rather start going and knowing that it might take us some time to find some qualified leads, to really nail down our messaging. The offer may get refined, but at least we have something solid to go to market with. And then quickly I need to be planning how to fill in those gaps, because we are going to be, our ability to come out of the gate swinging hard and deliver quickly is going to be super, super important. Did you have a question?
Yes, I did. So speaking of the minnow case study, what key indicators or data are you looking to collect, and to what purpose?
So great question. The biggest thing is, so let's just go ahead and jump really quick into the offer, because that'll help answer the question. So for direct-to-consumer SaaS business owners under 5 million in annual recurring revenue, this offer is how to increase your average annual recurring revenue by 2x or more in 12 months or less without crashing your business or giving up equity. So essentially, I want to demonstrate this, that this can be done, and also set some expectations of what that trajectory looks like, because it does take a couple months to kind of get rolling. And then once it gets rolling, it really starts to take on a bit of a snowball effect. So when I started this last time, we only had, I think, 6 months of data. And it was pretty good data, but since then we actually accelerated our pace. So they went from 2.64 million basically at the beginning of August 23 to 5.4 in the middle of April 24. So it was like an 88% growth in less than 9 months, I think. So like 8.5 maybe. But where we really came in is kind of in this middle area. And I think this first jump is they raised their prices. So I think that's really where the first jump came from. And then they sort of, again, you can see there was this downtrend line here. And then even before that, this gray is the previous year. So you follow the gray down, and then this ends here, and then it would start back here. You see they were dropping pretty steadily. And then I think they raised their prices, and then they were starting to drop again. And then during this time, we were kind of setting up, and right around here, we started turning the machine on and really getting some testing, getting some feedback in, and you can see it just accelerated. And then we got lucky and caught some seasonality for them in the early part of April, or end of March, early April. And then it just took off. So 88% in 8 months is pretty good, because I'm trying to do 100% in 12. So we'll probably hit this number middle of May, or we'll probably hit the 2x number middle of May. So that puts us in a position where we can maybe 2.5x them. Actually, their goals have gotten even more aggressive. So it's possible that we could even 3x them by the end of August. It'll be interesting to see, because summer, for many businesses, summertime can be a dry season, because depends on your industry, but especially digital businesses, people are just at their computers less, people are on vacation more. Things just tend to slow down in the summer months. So the summer months, for a lot of times for clients, I like to kind of prepare for Q3, Q4. So summer's usually, can we get through without losing too much, and can we make some gains? But also, what are we doing to kind of set ourselves up for the future? That's another big thing that we're doing. So in terms of turning this into a bit of a template, so the first piece is you want a headline to catch your target client's attention. That should include the dream outcome, so increase your ARR by 2x. The timeline, 12 months or less. The ROI, if possible. What are you getting from it? Which this happens to also be your doubling. So there's kind of 2 in 1 there. And then their biggest fear, which is in some cases for these startups at this level, it's going to be either crashing their business and failing or giving up too much equity. Those tend to be the 2 big things that business owners are going to be worried about at this kind of 2 million to 5 million level. And then from there, the best thing to do is jump into evidence, social proof. So we kind of went through and put together, this is already, I think we looked at it yesterday and it's been a week. This is already like, is it a week? 10 days. What was it? 57, 58? So yeah, so they're cruising. They're really moving fast. I'm not going to go into every little detail here, but we'll kind of take it high level, and then, if you have questions, we can jump in on stuff. But so I put a little quote in here from their marketing director, demonstrated, showed that at the time we hit 50K, which was 50K members was a huge milestone for them. They'd never done that before. 65% growth in 5 months. That's huge. So that was a big shout out that we got from them. Then it's really important to call out your audience so that they know they're in the right place. And one way to do that is to really touch on the problems that they're experiencing. So who's this for? This is for SaaS companies that are looking to 2x plus their average annual revenue in 12 months or less. So it's for you if you feel like your business is the best kept secret and you're losing clients to competition with worse products. If your business relies on referrals or organic growth, if you're ready to get an ROI on all your hard work, if your team's moving slower than your vision, that's a big pain point. I feel like a lot of owners have many times. If you're wasting money on agencies or new hires, that's also a big one. Unfortunately, a lot of agencies are kind of people that took a course somewhere and they kind of know how to push buttons, but they don't necessarily really understand the business and what drives value and the customers and how to talk to them. So, they're more button pushers than they are specialists, I guess maybe would be the opposite of that. So a lot of times we come in after a client has had an agency and we're cleaning up a lot of messes. And same thing with new hires. Hiring, whether you're new at it or not, it can be a challenge to find the right person, get them in the right seat, and get them performing in the way that you need to. So there can be a lot of wasted money there. If they're struggling to attract A-team talent, or if they're stuck working in the business and they want to spend more time working on the business. This is not for someone who doesn't have happy customers. This is super important because this particular offer is only for It's only for people that are in businesses that are in the performance stage. So businesses that have gone through the process of refining their offer, their messaging, like that they've hit their product market fit, they've hit a level of efficiency. I mean, you could be in profitability. Technically, you can be here, I would say. And that would mean that you're pretty efficient with what you're doing, but you haven't necessarily been able to replicate your acquisition in an efficient way. So maybe you have 1 or 2 channels that are super efficient, but in order to really grow, you have to expand not only into depth, but also breadth. So adding more channels and then improving the performance and scalability of the current channels. So if that's not you and you don't have a product that people get excited about, which also building on the back, the reason this is important is because you want that word of mouth and that referral traffic that really lowers your cost per acquisition and opens up the door for scale. So if you don't have a good product or something that people are raving about, then it might be time to not focus so much on your marketing, but on the value that you're delivering and making sure that there's alignment and expectations between the value that you're delivering and what people are actually thinking that they're getting. Anyone with less than 2 million, probably not going to be able to be on board with what we're doing. They need to have at least 40% margin because they need to be able to commit 20% cash flow back toward 20% of their monthly cash flow back into growth. And that doesn't include our fees. So Shouldn't be too hard for most SaaS companies. They're going to be running at a much higher margin than that. So I don't feel too bad about that. But I do want to be careful about the companies that I say yes to, because what I don't want to do is, it can be easy to get greedy and then try to be like, okay, cool. Well, between your 40%, between 20% you're going to invest in growth, and then, you pay us between, let's say, 14 and 20% as well. Oh, you're fine. Like, you don't need profit. You don't need to reinvest in your business. Well, no, that's stupid. And I don't want to ever choke a company of cash, because that's not good for me either. If I choke a company of cash, then nobody wins, because they go down and then I don't have a job. So we have to be kind of cognizant of that line. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a maximum for annual recurring revenue that you're looking for in companies? And if so, is your offer constant? So for example, if you're working with a company that has 10 million ARR, is the promise still you get them to 20 in 12 months?
So yes, the promise is constant for anyone between, I would say, 2 and 5 million. Because I think after 10 million, and this isn't always the case, but it's hard. You kind of have to take them on a case by case basis, but for the most part, like, I mean, even the company that's at 5 million now, they're only at 5 million, 5.1. They have like 25 employees. So it's like at 10 million, they're probably not going to want to outsource anymore. They're probably going to want to insource. And they do have a marketing team. It's pretty small, and we fill a lot of the gaps. So they kind of have a marketing director. And for the most part, they play, so they have someone that does a lot on the email side, and they have someone that does a lot on the like influencer and social media side. But that's it. Like, you're not going to get very far with that. So yeah, I think eventually they'll build out a team, and I would suggest building out a team. I don't think long-term you want to stay. So I view us as success is, can we take people from anywhere from 2 to 5 up to 5 to 10, and then hand them off to, either, and I haven't decided yet if we'll help them build a team or not. That's a potential back-end value proposition that we could add. It's like an end game. But I do think winning is, moving on. And, we brought you through the canyon, and now if you're hitting 10 million as SaaS, you're probably doing really well from a cash flow perspective, probably doing pretty well from a user perspective, especially in D2C. So at that point, you can afford to start building out a team, and you may fall backwards a little bit in the short term. So maybe we'll stay on in a consulting capacity for a period of time. But I think once your team is off the ground in 90 to 120 days, like, and if you've got some good people in place, like, they'll take it further than we probably would be able to. Long term, I mean, we could maybe take you to 25, but I just like what would have to be true is I'd have to drop other clients in order to do that. So yeah, so our specialty is going to be taking people through that kind of early growth stage, the early scaling stage, I would say. Does that make sense? Cool. They can't have any supply chain fulfillment or infrastructural issues, right? So if I'm scaling you and your foundation's crap, and we don't want a Jenga situation where we start stacking and it falls over. So you can't have any of those problems. I need to make sure that there's not some sort of outstanding debt, or I really want to know what your investment looks like or who your stakeholders are, because if someone's going to yank this deal, or yank your funding or something part of the way through or whatever, like, my guarantee is I'll work for free until I hit it. But if you cut things off halfway through, then no, like, that's not my fault. That's your fault. We need to have a real go at it. Obviously, if you haven't achieved product market fit, like, I'm just not going to be able to scale you. And then This one's kind of important. Well, it's actually very important. It's just kind of less intuitive, which is you really have to meet a felt need that doesn't require a lot of explanation or exists in a small or suffering market. So a good example of that is in the health and wellness space. The painkiller sells much better than the supplement because the supplement is preventative and only a small subsection of people are thinking proactively about their health and they're regularly taking supplements. Whereas when you're sick or you're in pain, you're looking for a solution. You're looking for the painkiller. So it's much, much easier to sell a painkiller than it is to sell a supplement. Not that I would never do a supplement, but type of a business, one where it requires some light bulb moments, but I don't want to have to spend into education and behavior development when I can just put the right product in front of somebody and have it go. So then I want to get into a little bit of what you can expect from this. So just kind of a quick layout of like what it is. We'll spend 2 full days on site with the client and their team, gather as much information about their customers, messaging, offers, unique sales proposition, customer journey, current and past performance. So that's going to be taking them through the Growth Hub, essentially, which is about to get a bit of an update pretty soon here. So there will be some videos probably coming on that. And then we'll plug into their tech stack and we will start pulling data. So that's going to go back to this piece here, this data collection. And that will allow us to kind of look and see where the friction is, what's working well, what's not working well, what's missing, what's confusing from a quantitative perspective. Then from a qualitative perspective, we will begin to call their clients. So, if you're doing at least $2 million, you have customers, we're going to see if we can get some of them on the phone and start asking them very pointed questions about, their struggles or their frustrations or their pain in general and how they felt like our client's offer relieves that. So that will help for the offer refinement component of things, which obviously leads into this, the offer optimization. I don't want people to compete as a commodity. I do want them to get the price they deserve. So we will be doing price testing as a function of this as well. So for performance and scaling, profitability, performance, and scaling. A lot of times people set prices pretty arbitrarily, so we want to be able to slowly march up prices until we see a trade-off in volume, and then we can notch it back. But a lot of times there's room to increase pricing without actually hurting your conversion rates. Sometimes it can impact it can positively impact your conversion rates. The only time I've seen this be the opposite situation is when you're kind of in the proof or predictability stages and your product isn't that great and you are really kind of aggressive with your pricing, and you might sell people on it in the short term, but if it's recurring, they'll probably drop, or if it's one time, they won't have a lot of good things to say and they just won't feel like the value's there. So pricing is really important, but having a strategy for how to actually arrive at the right pricing is also very important. And then obviously we'll set some quarterly strategic plans and milestone targets for them. In the first 60 to 90 days, once we get their growth system built and in place, we'll be off the ground and running. Then after that, we'll have our whole team in place to focus on the optimization and growth. So that's when you'll really see. So the beginning is going to be kind of through here, and then once we get rolling, boom, we're off to the races. But I have to see too that you've had some sparks of success that I can build a fire off of. And then this, I don't know if I'll keep this in here or not, but I thought it would be cool to, have some kind of exciting celebration milestones, like maybe we give them a plaque or something when they hit 2x, and if we keep working with them and they 3x and 4x and 5x, it would be really cool to kind of celebrate that and bring them into a club, and maybe even have a mastermind or something that we create in the future for people that are a part of that club. So this one this is probably what took me the longest. So this is kind of really breaking it down in narrative form. What is it that we actually do? And when I tell a story like this, I usually will use this format: the external problem, the internal pain, the solution, the external victory, the internal payoff. And then you support that with background information, stories, data, etc. The tricky thing was, and I don't know if this will make it into our actual marketing or not, so just a reminder, this document is kind of more of a requirements document, meaning like, here's all the information, pull the pieces that are relevant. I wouldn't, not every person's going to see every word on this page. This is a 16-page document. There's a lot of stuff on here. Right. And so this is really kind of our source of, what is it? And this may evolve over time, but I've done this situation before, where you actually have two sets of problem, pain, solution, victory, payoff, and one is embedded in the other. Did you have a question? Cool. Meaning you have a problem, there's some pain. In order to get to the solution, you have to open up a new loop of problem, pain, solution, victory, and then close it. So I did, for the sake of clarity, leave those in here so we can see. But most companies are plagued by the same question: how do we grow? The big universal truth is, when you stop growing, you start dying. That's kind of the case, I think, for people as well. But we believe that growth is not a complex problem to solve, and it doesn't happen by accident. So before we can actually tackle that, let's get to the bottom of what the actual growth problem is. So this is where it kind of opens up that new loop. So in the past 12 years, we learned that there's two types of businesses. And the first one we call the common growth business. And they are that way because the majority of businesses follow these patterns, and that's why the majority of businesses don't make it beyond like 5 years. It's because they suffer from common growth mistakes. So here are some of the big mistakes that we've seen before. One is a function of alignment, so they haven't hit product market fit. So over the long run, a product that's mediocre is just really not going to get good sales behind it. Let's see what I put here. Long run product is mediocre at best, won't last. Yeah, even if, right, this is like, you can't put lipstick on a pig. I can come in and I can, from a marketing perspective, give you a boost, but if you don't use that boost to turn around and improve the value of your product, like, we're going to hit another ceiling. So there's only so much I'm going to be able to do there. Messaging, huge. So you might have a really good product, but you're not really great at communicating it or communicating the value of it, and so you start to compete on price, which is a race to the bottom, and you become commoditized. You don't want that either. So a lot, like most newer business owners, their strategy for competition is either giving away things with promotions. So they're training their customers to buy only when there's promotion, which is kind of a signal that like there's not enough value in like intrinsically. Or they try to, if they're in a competitive space, they try to undercut their competitors, and then they become the cheap option, which is also not where you want to be, because then you attract the bottom of the barrel types of customers too. Risk aversion. So this one is a tough one. These ones, I always, these types of clients, I'm always like, I just want to shake them a little bit and go, what's wrong with you? Because typically these people they've actually usually done something pretty good. They've built something pretty great, but they are nervous about spending against it and, or trying to over optimize, or over engineer to the degree that they sort of become paralyzed and they don't grow. It's kind of like the, accounting mindset where you're just looking at dollars out and you're not really looking at ROI. Let me tell a quick story on it and then I'll take your question. But I had a friend who I walked through he has an app, productivity app. We walked him through this whole hub process, and then by the end, we ended up helping him set up ads, and he was, for every dollar he was spending, he was making $5, and he was only spending like, it might have even been more than that. It was something like $10 or $20 a day he was spending, and he was making like 50 to 200. And I was like, dude, spend more than $10. And after a week, he shut it off. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, I'm spending too much money. No, you're not. You're printing money, and there's a cost to that. So yeah, he could have thousands of users right now, and instead he's got maybe dozens or hundreds. And he's in his own way. But yeah, so you can't have that type of a mind. If your mindset is not about growth and you're not willing to spend to gain, then you're going to get stuck. Go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, I understand that, especially for Sherpas, a role you played. Part of the role is actually having a close mentoring relationship with, whether it's a CEO, marketing director. For an individual like that happens to be expense minded, or an accountant, whoever it may be, how do you push them, prod them, develop a relationship so they can be growth minded and get with the vision that you're building?
Great question. A lot of it requires building trust and proof. So it helps if you were referred and they have somebody who they respect, you won for, you were able to win for them, and they can say, hey, they also kind of need to have an awareness that they're a bit on the conservative side, and a willingness to, and an open-mindedness to allow us to push back against that. If they are very stubborn, so an individual that you and I both know, that I was with in Guatemala, who has, I forget what his business is. He's got a few different things. You know what I'm talking about? Super conservative minded. He's like doing so well. And I'm just like, dude, like you could be doing so much better. But he's super hung up on wanting to get the most out of every dollar that he spends, that he's unwilling to spend into testing to figure out how to actually close that gap. So and he's got this fear that he's going to fully saturate his market. And it's like, unless your market's super tiny, and even if your market is super tiny, like, saturating your market, you have to think about it like panning for gold. It's like, if you've ever watched any of those shows where they're up in Alaska and they're going for gold, it's like, who's worried that the gold's going to run out? Is it going to run out? Yeah, eventually, obviously. But also there's still tons left, but you have to buy a whole freaking mountain in order to, and sift through it in order to get the gold that is there. So, man, I forget where I was going with that. Oh yeah, you're even if you have a small market, like unless you have total access to 100% of that market, first party access, like that's gonna take you so long to penetrate, and you're gonna have to sift through all the unqualified people. And it's also very small-minded to think that you couldn't then on the back end. This is the other thing I was telling him. On the back end, you can also create other products, services that you can sell people. He is in the SaaS space, and I was like, well, you can start developing content and training, and all of a sudden now people that are buying your plugins and your add-ons and your things like that, they can be taking training. And you can't think small. If you think small, you'll stay small. So it really is kind of a fear. It's a fear-based mindset, and it's a control-driven mindset. And by doing that, you're not allowing any energy or money to really flow. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. This one, inability to navigate growth obstacles. This one I think we really shine at. That is when people kind of get to the point where they've sort of hit their ceiling, they're doing pretty good, and they're just like, where do we go next? And they either kind of lean into gurus, or they have a committee and they have ideas, and they start throwing stuff at the wall, and maybe they do a lot of things and they don't stick, because maybe they didn't do them consistently, or they didn't really understand, like, the first time you go and run a Facebook ad, you're probably going to get no sales, no leads, like if you've never done it before, because you just don't know what you don't know. And so if we're getting into kind of white powder for somebody, that's where we take over brilliantly. And that happens. It just depends on kind of what your background is, and there's no shame in that. It's like, that's what we're here for. We're here to take you to that next level. And then not having a clear target, and this could be at like many different levels. So like common growth businesses, like they really seem to struggle setting clear targets. They don't know what their goals should be. And then when they have a goal, they really don't know either how to get there, so how to break it down into smaller manageable milestones, or they don't have a way of measuring success along the way. So they're not even really sure, like it's kind of like it kind of violates the SMART goal principles, where it's like, hey, we know we want to go this way, but we don't really know if we've hit it or not. So the business just becomes unfocused, and it kind of falls apart. So the pain from that, so this was that sort of external patterns that people are following, and then mistakes that people are making, which creates this internal pain. This is pain. There's four common growth patterns. The first one is sluggish growth, which I have them ranked from, because these are like early signs that you have a growth problem. So I have them ranked from like least bad symptom to like the worst symptom. So sluggish growth is like you're growing, but it's small, and it is like it's like the faucet dripping. Like, yeah, you're gonna fill up your glass of water in a week. Like you're gonna get there, but it's gonna take forever. And it's not the worst place to be, because you are growing and you can do something with that. But if you don't break out of that, there are forces that can come along that can pull you into some of these lower ones, which the next one would be flat, which flat growth is pretty self-explanatory. It's this one right here. You're not making any progress. You're just treading water, right? So you're kind of staying alive. You're keeping the lights on. This is actually where Jolly Sherpa is today, I would say. We are in flat growth. We've been in all four of these at some point, and we've been in uncommon growth too. But this is actually intentional flat growth. So it's not bad to be in these places, but if you're not trying to be in these places on purpose, if it's not an intentional, hiatus, or you're doing other things in the meantime, then you're in trouble, because that means like one bad thing happens and you're out of flat growth and you're into either roller coaster or negative growth. So roller coaster growth is exactly what it sounds like. It's up and down. This is my least favorite type of growth, maybe even worse than negative growth, because it's just so unpredictable, and that creates a lot of volatility, and that will send shockwaves through your business. So that could come from seasonal effects, supply chain issues, promotions, all kinds of different things can cause it. And it's not bad to sometimes inject some positive things into the system to create some boosts. But if you don't have some consistency, and if you are feast or famine, then your people are going to feel it. You're going to feel it. Like there will be days where you're going to be riding a high, and then the next day you're going to be like, I don't know if I can make payroll. And it's just an awful place to be. And then negative growth, obviously, you're sliding backwards. We were actually at negative growth before we were at flat growth. So we have stabilized, but now it's time to move into, and we're going to try and skip sluggish and go right into uncommon. That's what this whole exercise is. So the worst part about all this is if you're starting to suffer from some of these mistakes and experience some of these growth patterns, then there's a big likelihood that you're starting to feel some of these pain points. So analysis paralysis, time pressure, cash flow issues, talent turnover, distractions with shiny objects. You can get burnout. I actually recently heard of another one called bore out. That could also be one too. Your personal life can get impacted. So for me, in this case, this is the first time in like years where I had to take a pay cut. So that means my paycheck is taking a hit, which means that what I can do in my personal life is less than what I would normally be able to do. Work for work's sake. This is just a lot of kind of mental masturbation and not doing things that are maybe urgent but not important, or sometimes neither, and not moving the ball forward. And then finally, like, it just sucks the life out of you and you can lose passion. And these are some really sad things for a business owner, because a lot of times the reason somebody gets into business is to have the opposite of these things. So it can be hard to pull yourself out. So solution there is there's no reason to suffer by putting the future of your business at risk. Growth is just a problem to solve, and we've cracked the code, and it's very simple. And this statement kind of sums it up for us. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems and your processes. So to achieve uncommon growth, you need a system that multiplies cash and gets more efficient over time. That means you need something that's consistent, predictable, profitable, or efficient at finding, attracting, and converting qualified prospects into paying customers, then turning them into raving fans, that will kind of trigger your word of mouth, and the system itself will also improve over time. So that efficiency will improve over time. Put a little quote in here from The Matrix. Easier said than done, right? There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. Like, that's great, cool. We need a system. How do we actually get there? I do go into a bit of a story, which I don't know that I'll tell the whole story here. But basically, I was working for, so this was like the last job that I had in 2018. I was working for Dave Ramsey's EntreLeadership brand. I don't know if you're familiar with Dave or not. Dave actually is known for his Financial Peace University, his talk show, Getting Out of Debt. But he has like 13 other businesses basically inside of his company. He's got multiple brands. When I started, I was like employee 800 something, and when I left, I was like, there was like over 1,000, and that was 6 years ago. So he's probably got maybe double that by now, and he just built like a huge new building. So love him or hate him, like, dude is so genius at running a business and really good at leadership. But anyway, people kind of found out I was working there, and I started running Facebook ads on the side. I'm wondering how relevant this is for all of this, but I got into a point where, like, I was newly married. I was working, full-time job, and then I would come home and I would work with side clients, and it was starting to kind of eat away at my personal life. Not great. So I made a choice to. Bad math. I had a choice to make a jump, and I did. So I quit my job, and I went full-time into my side hustle, which is now my agency. At the time, it was just me, and now I have a team of, I don't know, a dozen people or so. Kind of fluctuates, but in that time, we really spent that time learning to do anything and everything. So we built websites, landing pages, managed ad campaigns, created email journeys, developed blogs, ran SEO, did lead generation tools, you name it. I built assessments for people. I did Kickstarters. Like, I did movie launches. I did court cases. Like, I did petitions. I did everything. So, like, which was great, because it was, for me, that was great, because for most people, if you really want to make money, they say the riches are the niches. But for me, niches are boring. I can't do them. So I really realized at the end of the day, I was kind of getting good at this niche of one. And a lot of the clients that were coming to us, because it was all word of mouth that I was built on, were people that were kind of in these two areas mostly. We did have a couple in here, and we did have some in here, but this was our bread and butter, which I I don't really like. The reason it's our bread and butter is because we developed a lot of systems to help people navigate this refinement period, because this is really a refinement period for the business where there's a lot of variables that attribute to success, and you have to dial those in. And if you can't do them, you're never going to get to here. But it means that like you're keeping your budgets low. It's very money conscious. You're moving at the speed of cash. So your two trade-offs are, hey, if you want to go faster, you have to spend more money, but really you can't spend more money because you're not making a ton. So it's just not a fun place to work in. So we're going to be serving these people still, but we're going to be serving them on the community and content side, and then potentially on the coaching side. But like, I don't want to be doing it for them anymore. It's a lot to carry those people. But eventually I realized, okay, we do need to somehow find a niche. And because it was hard we were a virtual CMO company at the beginning, so we did everything, right? And we do a lot right now. We don't do everything. We've pared it down, but we still do a lot of different things. But I was really asking the question, what is a universal approach to growing any business? Like it for me, it was, I really want to know, because I'm super passionate about entrepreneurship. I'm not passionate about marketing. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship and growth and success. And, I love talking to business owners. And so it's like, I would love to understand any idea that I have or that anyone else has, that I can be able to walk into a company, look at what they're doing and say, cool, this is where you're at on your journey. This is where you're trying to go. Boom, here's the path, because it's the same fundamental principles for every business. And so over time, I treated every client like a guinea pig, and I iterated and learned, and I iterated and I learned, and I built systems, and here's where we are today. All the puzzle pieces fell into place. I finally feel like the system's good enough to go. So this is how we get you to double your annual revenue in 12 months or less. So it's kind of 5 simple steps. First one, clear business fundamentals. And this can be kind of mirrored here. So that's our onboarding. So we want to make sure that we capture the DNA of your business, and we know exactly who your customers are, what your offer is, what the value is that you provide, how to talk about it, what your data says, etc. So if there's any gaps in your fundamentals, we need to know what those are, because we will fill those gaps. But that's your foundation. That's what we are going to build off of. Going back to the Jenga, if your foundation's crap, then it even says your business is only as solid as the foundation you build it on. Second is, we want to map the path. So there are 2 important pathways that we focus on. I have a note here to refine this. So, I will work on this, but not on this particular video, because we only got about 10 minutes left. But the acquisition pathway is the path to first purchase, because the whole methodology resides on buying customers at a value that is less than what that they're worth something to the company. You want to buy them for something less than that. You want to work to lower that cost of acquisition and raise that value. So the acquisition path is about buying the customer. So how do you bring new people into your ecosystem, into your email list, into your social, into your network, into your fold, right? Because you want to have the ability to, once somebody buys from you once, they're like 10 times more likely to buy from you again. So that's kind of the first piece. Second piece is the value pathway. And the value pathway is probably the most underrated thing. Everyone focuses on sales funnel, but not the value pathway. And the value pathway is, it asks the question, how do you extract the most value out of a customer? Or maybe not extract, but like transfer the most value. And people think of value usually in one dimension, which is money. But there are many different currencies money's just a proxy for all kinds of different currencies: time, energy, skills, social equity, right? Like, so if I'm going to refer a friend, that means that I believe in, you helped me so much, you gave me so much value, that I'm willing to go to my network, risk my reputation to endorse your product or service, right? That is social equity that I'm trading. So if I'm willing to give you, or even if I'm just giving you a testimony, that's time, right? It takes time to for me to sit down and write you a review. Like, I don't want to do that, but if it's so good, then that's a, I'm going to feel maybe compelled to do that time trade-off. Another thing too, even on the acquisition path, people fail to realize when you're doing lead acquisition and you're just getting emails, that it's like, no, that's access. You're the transactional value there is access, communication access. So yeah, it's important to understand that on the back end, yes, we can sell them on more products or services or retain them if they're going to fall off, but also there's opportunities to have them provide more value than just the money that they gave you, which then turns around and helps. So for example, every word of mouth or testimony or review that's positive is going to make it that much easier for you to acquire people on the front end. And that's going to lower your acquisition cost, right? And does that make sense? So it creates sort of this vortex, this positive vortex. So yeah. And like companies, so for example, companies with like good value pathways, Apple, you don't buy one Apple product. People who are fans of Apple have every Apple product. Disney is another one. Disney, like, they have the parks, they have the movies, they have Plus, they have, everything. Amazon, like, you're not just buying one time from Amazon, you're buying a lot of times from Amazon. So those companies have all gotten massive, not because of customer acquisition, but because of value pathway optimization. So, you have to do this, but also this is where the scaling comes in. It's what allows you to kind of scale and expand your ceiling. Number 3 is constructing the system. That's actually building. So putting any infrastructural pieces in place, whether that's ads or emails or SEO or web pages, flows, things like that. Then from there, we want to obviously be able to measure performance so that we can see where the friction is and where the opportunity is. And then finally, we'll go into profit iteration testing, which is where we'll be making small adjustments, where we're kind of taking into account the law of compounding gains by making continuous micro improvements. So if you do 1% better, 1% better, 1% better. For example, if you do 1% better every day for 30 days, that's 37% growth, not 30% growth. And also, if you're only doing if you're only doing small changes periodically, that you're far more likely to get further faster by making small incremental changes than you are trying to make big jumps, which I'm sort of in violation of that for how this whole process is taking me much longer than I wanted to. And so now I'm kind of like, okay, it doesn't need to be perfect. Like you'll see, this says refine and expand, like whatever. I need to get moving with it. I need to get it going. I need to get it out into the marketplace, because I have something now that I at least feel confident taking to the market, but I know it is not going to stay the way that it is, just because I've done this process with clients enough times from this point that it's going to change, and I'm going to get feedback from prospects and clients, and I'm going to be like, oh, okay, the real value might be over here, and there will be some things I'll take away. There will be some things I add, but yeah. Threw in another testimony to kind of show that we can do what we say we can do. We chose Jolly Sherpa as our agency, and it's been one of our best decisions we've ever made. They're not just an ordinary agency. I don't even like being called an agency at this point, but they're a part of our team. They took the time to understand our values, especially our think like an owner mindset. I mean, that's just how we are. So we just had that DNA in common. It's rare to find an agency that genuinely lives, breathes this principle alongside you, but we do that. Yep. We're always a step ahead in finding innovative ways to push their business forward without them needing a nudge. So, we're going to be proactive. I think that's really important for somebody who's considering us as a partner, like a growth partner, is that you don't want to have to be pushing your growth team. You want to have to be like, slow down, slow down. Like that's a much better problem to have than a like, come on guys, where are we at here? Transparency and trust aren't just buzzwords for us. They're essential. Jolly Sherpa understands this, and they're open about what they do and how they do it. Yeah, we're super transparent. That's a big thing, because trust in relationships, particularly win-win relationships, are huge for us. So if we can't do that, then it's not going to work, especially because we bring a leadership approach to the table. So you need to be willing. So in the question that you asked earlier, how do you get those people that are kind of more conservative focused? Like, they need to be willing to trust us. And we definitely earn that pretty early on with a lot of the onboarding that we do. But then once we get testing going and we get some insights and we start telling them about their own business and they start to see the needle move, then they start to say, then it's like, get out of our way. And if we have to have a hard conversation, then we will. But that's the beauty, I think, about the value of what we bring, is like, you just sit back and like, let us do our thing and just don't get in the way. And then if your mindset is like, how can you support us? Block and tackle. Like, if we ask for something, if you have something, get it to us as quickly as possible. So yeah, this is a pretty good testimony, I thought, from their CEO. They appreciate our focus on numbers, understand the importance of being data driven. Yep, we very much look at, and the way that we manage their budgets, their marketing budgets, is a lot like portfolio investing. So we're constantly, we're not just investing in what we want to do. We're looking at where's the best place to move money around. So almost on a weekly basis, we're moving money around into different activities, or doubling down on things, or pulling stuff back depending on how it's performing. So we're just responding to the needs of the business in real time. So yeah, I think that kind of covers it. And that segues into creating uncommon growth. So if the first one that we've seen is common growth, what does uncommon growth look like? Uncommon growth is signified by that classic hockey stick model, which is what you see, boom, right there. Like, like we're going for that hyperbolic growth. And it's cool. Like, I'm pretty proud of that, because we've done it before, but we haven't really captured it before. And yeah, it's just nice to be able to see that being done, and then, be able to go do this for other people. So, what you actually need to create, we call the growth vortex. And that's really, it's the opposite of a downward spiral, where every action seems to lead you further and further into a dark hole of entropy. The uncommon growth vortex is an upward spiral, operating like a harmonic ecosystem where each activity is supported by the last. In essence, your success enables more success. So I want to create a visual for this, but a previous example that I kind of mentioned was, if you're optimizing your acquisition pathway and you're doing really good there, but then you're also optimizing your value pathway to make more from your current customers. So you might be increasing average purchase frequency, you might be trying to reduce profit margin, increase average order value, but then you're also asking for testimonies or case studies or reviews or referrals, or you're asking them to share something, and that's lowering your costs. So the more you can increase that value, the more you can afford to go pay for a customer, which allows you to scale. At the same time, so that buys you more market share already, because your customers' costs exist on a curve, and there's going to be cheap ones at the front, expensive ones at the back, and then somewhere in the middle there's a bell curve. But if I can increase that value and I'm still trying to make a 3x return on every customer, well, if I go from 90 to 120 value, that means I can go from 30 to 40 cost per acquisition. And now I have more breathing room. But then at the same time, if I'm improving my effectiveness and my efficiency at my acquisition through the optimization, but also through my value pathway, now all of a sudden, even though I could afford to pay 40 and 30 was my previous target, I'm actually now paying 20. So I go from 30-90, so a 3x, to let's say 20-120, 6x. Just by making small incremental improvements on both sides, you just boom, you increase that gap and you make more money. Okay, so we are at the time for this video. I'll go through a little bit more of this in the next video, and maybe so there will be a part 4. We'll land the plane here, and I'll start taking this back into, I don't think I've shared the offer exercise for how I actually arrived here at a high level. So we'll kind of walk through that. And then, I'll start moving into what we're going to be developing essentially for our inbound. What does it look like to be a Sherpa? Like that's going to be part of it. And then you'll see us building our landing pages, our assessment, our emails, our ads, our videos, that sort of stuff. So we'll actually be kind of moving out of this planning phase and into this actual execution phase. And then it will be really fun. The phase I'm most excited for is the improvement phase, because I think the most value is like seeing something that's already going and making adjustments to it. It's much easier to conceptualize. So thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next one.